We can't hear you.
Yes, yes.
Yes, now you're audible. Yeah, you can welcome everyone. Then you can start.
Good morning to all. On behalf of Kandiram University, Center for Study of Social Inclusion and Inclusive Policy, I welcome all of you for this one-day national webinar on remembrance of Indigenous Day. Actually, this center was started in 2010. And it's one among the UGC delivery centers in India. For this occasion, I welcome all the participants. First of all, I want to welcome our Vice Chancellor, Registrar. Then we have in our midst our beloved Dean, Dr. William Bhaskaran sir. He came for addressing inaugural address for this one-day webinar. So I welcome sir. The next deputy, Dr. Anjali Purani, ma'am. He came and is going to share the first session. Welcome, ma'am. Anjali Purani, ma'am. Then also welcome second session speaker, Professor Ramesh Singh from Department of Anthropology, University of Hyderabad. I welcome you, sir. Then I welcome all the participants from various universities and colleges. I welcome one and all, and I also welcome the convener of this webinar, Anjali Chandra, and also the participants and colleagues. Dr. Kani Srinivasan, Unique Wrestling. I welcome all the participants. Welcome on that.
Thank you, Mani sir. Yeah, so this is really a joy for all of us to meet together in this virtual platform for this one-day national webinar, which is titled as "Leaving No One Behind." Towards the indigenous people. We are going to observe today the International Day for Indigenous People, which is celebrated by United Nations. Almost, I think 13 to 14 years have been gone since Mani sir, can you mute yourself? So almost 13 to 14 years have been gone since this United Nations is observing this Indigenous Day for International Day for Indigenous people all around the world. So if you see the website of United Nations also, they have given certain things. They are going to have some discussions today regarding this day, and they have a guest speaker. So we also thought of doing the same thing which can be done today. So yeah, with these words, I would welcome once again all of you, Anjali ma'am and Ramesh Singh sir, guest speakers for today, and we are heartily welcoming our Dean of Social Sciences, Dr. William Bhaskaran sir. Sir has a 30 years of teaching and research experience, and sir is specialized in the peace studies, Gandhian thought, conflict resolution, Shanti Sena, and counseling, and many other areas of Gandhian thought. And he has guided 3 PhDs and 6 PhDs, and 9 are still pursuing. And sir has a lot of papers published in national and international journals, and he has 3 books on his account. And then sir has also conducted so many seminars and workshops, and he has certain invited talks also sir has given. So there is a lot for him, but due to time I am just briefing it. So we welcome you, sir, once again for the inaugural address. So handing over to you, sir. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anjali. Most respected Professor Dr. Anjali Purane, Professor Ramesh Singh, and Dr. Mani, Dr. Anjali, and my colleagues and friends. In fact, I am very happy to join you on the day of Indigenous people. On this day, we have been celebrating the rights and lifestyle of the Indigenous people and recognize them, how much they are important for the world. And therefore, it is a joy to join you to celebrate in this function. The title is very, very attractive, Leaving No One Behind. That's the main title, Leaving No One Behind. Because as a professor of Gandhian studies, I was reminded of Gandhiji's words. His ideal is Sarvodaya, the welfare of all. That's leaving no one behind and bringing everyone to the mainstream, bringing everyone together as the human community, single community. So, Gandhi not only talked about Sarvodaya, he talked about Antyodaya, the last man. When we shall achieve Sarvodaya, when we are able to achieve the welfare of the last man, the Antyodaya. And who is the last man? I think that is the big question. So that varies from place to place and society to society. So country to country, and so on. But as far as indigenous people are concerned, they constitute 5% of the whole population, maybe around that. So they have been retaining their own culture, tradition, their lifestyle. That's very, very important. But now the attempts are being made to bring them to the mainstream group. How to bring them to the mainstream? That's the point. So there are two major approaches with regard to the welfare of the indigenous people. Their debate is going on everywhere. In 2017, I went to Canada to attend an international seminar on gathering on common ground, building harmony through diversity in Canada and India. So there was the title, Gathering on Common Ground. So how to gather together in the common ground with our own identity or having a single identity. So now the question remains whether to bring the indigenous people to the mainstream and make them as part of it, and by making them to deprive of their own culture, tradition, lifestyles, and everything. That's one approach. That's how the Western world was trying to do that. And we have been following that culture. All our politicians, all our social thinkers, I think they think that the indigenous people live backward life and we have to bring them to the mainstream. That's one approach. But now another approach is, I think, making them to have their own life, have their own culture, have their own tradition, allow them to, not allowing. I think we can, I think people have to, I think indigenous people should not be intervened. I think we should not intervene in their life, in their culture. And I think they have every right to pursue their own lifestyle and culture. So this is another approach. This is another approach. But now the topic is having a new contract, social contract, how to link, what kind of link we could develop with them, how to do that. This is a question. I think in the Canada, the indigenous people who attended the seminar was asking it. So leave us. And you have occupied our land, you have and exploit our resources. We are trying to modify our lifestyle. and you just you try to keep us away from our culture, tradition, and way of life. And you have taken away forest land and all the resources and make us to pick you for your life. And in the process, you try to take us into you. This is the kind of thing they have been raising it. I think in an Indian context, the situation is not very much different from that. Nowadays, in some states, the tribal people, indigenous people, mean they are the Naxalites, branding them, isolating them. This is because of the modern civilization. In modern civilization, in the process of so-called civilization, what they have been doing, they try to integrate them. And if they don't get into your mainstream, then you just fragment them, you divide them, you segregate them, and marginalize them, so that they will not have their own identity, and they will not have their strength to fight against this mainstream. So, what kind of approach are we going to pursue in developing our contact with them? That's a very important point to be discussed today. I think this seminar, I think we have two important speakers, and they have worked on anthropology, and they know, I think, the conditions of the indigenous people and how to bring them, how to develop them. I think we cannot develop. I think they develop themselves already. They are developed a position in their own sense. And in our parlance or in our purview, they may not be developed. I think that's our problem. So how to make that contact with them, and how to keep our identity, and how to keep the different culture to blossom in this world. So that's the point of discussion today, because today is the day of the indigenous people. I think today we have to respect them, recognize them, and recognize their culture, accept them, and support them. I think we should not disrupt them. We should support them to have their own life, because they have every right to pursue their own life and culture. Understanding their culture may be our prime duty, and not intervening, judging is not our domain, or it's not our job to do. And I really appreciate the faculty members in the social inclusion exclusion for organizing such program, and remembering and choosing the right topic, remembering the people of indigenous. And I think we should take this message to larger people, so that the mainstream population will not think that they are living or they are having a backward life. Rather, they are also most advanced. I think the mainstream people are having many dilemmas, many struggles with regard to the civilization. Therefore, many people are talking. I think when you look into the issue of terrorism, there's Benjamin Barber who has talked about. That's the struggle between modernity and tradition. The problem is not with the religion, he was telling, because the modernity and the tradition. Because the traditional people are little religious, and the modern people are more technological oriented. But these two people are calling themselves as modern, advanced. Okay, and even among the mainstream people, they are divided in this, and they are struggling, fighting with each other. That's because of that. I think the terrorism, problem like terrorism happens. So by understanding this, I think we should understand the significance of the indigenous people and their life and culture. And I think not interfering to their life is the biggest thing. And maybe we can have a contact as a human being and understand them, understand their values, and understand their lifestyles and culture, and promote promote it or help them to promote it. So with these words, I'm happy to inaugurate this webinar, national webinar, and I also congratulate the organizers for doing this wonderful job on this day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your words and for the beautiful inaugural address. As you have rightly said that we need not develop them because they know the nature and the resources much better than us, and we just have to include them and give them certain things through which they can be in the mainstream, and they can be developed. So thank you so much, sir, for our short invitation and your acceptance and giving this address, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And now we have another kind of surprise, I can say. We have Muthaya sir with us from Tamil department. I think Muthaya sir is there, right? So, sir is...
Yes, I'm available.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you for this short notice invitation, and you have accepted. So, since today is the Indigenous Day, so sir has sent me a video. Sir is in professor in Tamil department in our university. So, I have requested him, why don't we screen it, just 1 minute 20 seconds video, which was made by Tamil department. It is a SAP department now. So sir is going to give a brief introduction about that tribe and about the dance which they are performing and their little bit of culture. And sir's area, I can say, he's specialized in folklore, performing arts, and modern literature. He has more than 18 years of teaching and research experience, guiding so many scholars, written more than 15 books and papers in different journals. So yeah, sir, can you introduce that tribe and then I can screen the video?
Yes. Most respected Vice Chancellor, respected Registrar Professor V.P. Ashok and Professor William Bhaskaran, respected staff of this seminar, and organizers of this national seminar and participants, good morning to all. I am here to introduce the Palni Hill tribes in a brief manner. Western Ghats, a major hill range in India, its south end of Kanyakumari in Tamil Nadu. According to the People of India project, it's mentioned about 461 tribal communities spread in the length of breadth of our country. Among these, 36 tribes live in Tamil Nadu, both land and Western Ghats. The major tribes like Kota, Toda, Palliya, Mudua, and Kanikarans were living through in Western Ghats hills from the ancient period of time, as per the literature, and they have rich Dravidian linguistics and the ethnic cultural identity. The tribes of Palliyas are living in Western Ghats area, particularly Madurai, Dindigul, Theni, Virudhunagar, and Tirunelveli districts. The Palliyas are living with a natural and a simple technical life. The knowledge of medicine and self-dependent nature experience are excellent one. They are traditionally hunters and honey gatherers. The Palliyas are living closely with nature. They use natural medicine with available from the forest. When compared to various other communities in Tamil Nadu, the Palliyas constitute relatively a very small group. Their each settlements consist of 10 to 15 clusters of houses. Their hamlets are not easily accessible to visitors as there is no proper road connections. They used here building huts or locally available materials. They have a rich cultural people. They have own music, they have own deities, they have own belief systems. Particularly in Kodaikanal area, Paliyers and Pulayers are very major indigenous community. We simultaneously went to contact them and they collected some folk songs, their proverbs, their rituals, their art forms. In this video, just we explain their dance form only, music and dance. The Paliyas, they have play a flute and kulal, satta kulal they call. Yeah, each and every rituals and worship, they used this type of music and dance forms. In players also, their ritual ceremony, marriage ceremony, and death ceremony, other cultural activities, they very much eagerly participated. This performed this type of music and art forms. They have the Adi musician. I conclude their music. They are very primitive musicians, very primitive people. They have a primitive culture. Nowadays also they practicing that type of cultural activities. Just you see this document or video, you know about them that indigenous people's behaviors and culture and music. Just you see and ask any clarification. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, sir. And yeah, you can mute your video, like your voice, sir, so that I can screen the
Okay.
this thing video. So as we all know that they are the Paliya tribe, so let us enjoy the dance form just for 1 minute, and then we can start the session. Yeah. Mhm. एक मिनट अभी मैंने शेयर नहीं किया है ये है ना पूछ लो so my voice is coming na anyone can respond
Yes.
Yes,
Please
Anjali, your
Here.
voice is nice.
I'll on the video now. Yeah. So all of you, please mute your mics.
வாருங்கள் பழங்குடி மக்களை பாதுகாப்போம் தொல்குடி பண்பாட்டை மீட்டெடுப்போம்
Yeah, this was the video, and I hope all of you have seen and enjoyed, right?
We have more than 5 hours video in our documentation.
Oh,
Just
this is just 1 minute.
display 1
Okay.
minute video.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir. Thank you for this thing, and we really enjoyed the joy they have on their face, the children, and then the people how they're performing the art, and it's one of the part of their intimate part of their culture. Thank you so much, sir, for
Yes.
giving us this video.
Thank you, madam.
It
Thank
is
you.
your
Thank you.
copyright, but we have screened it with your permission, and we have enjoyed. Like we have really felt that this is the Indigenous Day, and we were seeing their performance. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, yes.
So
Thank you.
yeah, so with this, we can move towards the session. The main speaker, the main resource persons, our guest speaker for today, Anjali ma'am. So we welcome you, ma'am. And before that, um, I would just like to introduce ma'am with a brief introduction. Ma'am is currently a dean, Faculty of Humanities, senior professor of anthropology, a researcher, consultant, academician, and a proficient administrator at Savitribai Phule Pune University. And she is a socio-cultural anthropologist, renowned international scholar, development and urban anthropologist, especially for her contribution to tribal women and caste studies. Uh, yeah, and ma'am has 30 years of teaching and 32 years of research experience, and also 18 years of administrative experience as a head of department, as a director of interdisciplinary studies in humanities and social sciences, as a coordinator for social sciences and humanities, and currently as a dean of humanities, and as a member of statutory authorities of university board of studies and academic council, senate, and able her to take on multiple tasks simultaneously and produce high quality results. Her area of special interest in teaching and research include urban, rural, tribal, and women's development, weaker sections of Indian society, which includes caste, tribe, and women studies, gender studies, anthropological theories, ethnicity, ethnic identity, and ethnic diversity, urbanization, social exclusion, and migration, and the social mobility, and so on. And she has conducted extensive field research among the isolated tribal and rural group as well as communities in the urban settings. She has published 6 books and 38 articles in international and national journals, presented around 90 papers in international, national, and seminar conferences. And at present, she is a member of editorial and advisory board of 4 international and national journals. Ma'am is working with Maharashtra state government bodies from 2011. She was a member of governing body, Tribal Research and Training Institute, Tribal Development Department, Government of Maharashtra from 2014 to 2018. And she is a founder member, Autonomous Tribal Research and Training Institute, TRTI, Government of Maharashtra, and also a member of Research Committee. Advisory Committee of Research Projects of TRTI, Government of Maharashtra since 2011. She has prepared a handbook of conceptual and methodological framework for scrutinizing tribal identity claims and submitted to Tribal Development Department, Government of Maharashtra. This handbook will strengthen the scrutiny process of tribal identity claims and assist government to prevent pseudo-tribalization. And this study has helpful for both government and academicians, and currently she's working on ethnographic study of 45 tribal groups in Maharashtra. And this will update tribal situation, inform extinct tribal groups and those on the way of extinction. This is an enormous work in the field of tribal literature. Ma'am has received 2 awards and recognition at international level as staff fellow to Oxford Brookes University, Oxford, UK, and to Ghent University, Belgium. Her understanding of development and equipped her to actively engage in policy debates and development activities, develop networks and strengthen the bonds between the universities across the country and world through international staff fellowship and working with the international bodies. Her inclusive understanding in academic and administration have prepared her with a capacity for developing proficiency and capability in a position. So these are very less, I think, things which ma'am has given me, and she has done much more than this. And I have a like opportunity to know her as my external examiner for my viva voce. Ma'am has come, and since then I think we are in touch through different means. So it's a great honor for me, ma'am, this time to welcome you. I've never thought as your student that you will be with us. Like I will be inviting you for this. So thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting our invitation. And with these words, I would hand over the session to ma'am for today's first session. And ma'am is going to deliver the lecture, and then we'll have question answers also. So with these words, over to you, ma'am. Yes, Anjali, ma'am.
Yeah, it was mute. Thank you, Anjali.
Okay.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. And good morning, everyone. Dignitaries on the digital dais and of the digital dais, Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. S. Madhveswaran, Registrar Professor Shiv Kumar, Webinar Convener Dr. Anjali Chandra, Co-Convener Dr. A. Mani, Dr. Thiru Kani, professors, my colleagues, scholars, students, friends. First of all, I wish you a very, very happy International Day of the world's indigenous people. Now, we are celebrating this International Day of World's Indigenous People. Now, what is it? Why to celebrate this day? This is very important to know. International Day of World's Indigenous People, I feel it's an event. It's an event to educate the public on the issues of indigenous people. It's an event to mobilize the political will and resources. I will, it's an event to address the global problems of indigenous people. Of course, also it's to event to celebrate and reinforce the achievement of humanity. And I'm very sure that this today's celebration of world's indigenous people would be successful in achieving these objectives. At least we are touching this objective through this seminar, and for that I'm very thankful to Dr. Anjali for organizing such kind of webinar. We all know on the 23rd December 1994, the United Nations Assembly decided in its resolution that International Day of World's Indigenous People shall be observed on the 19th August every year. And the date marks the first meeting in 1982 of the United Nations Working Group on Indigenous Population. This year theme, we all know Anjali, Dr. Anjali, she has already told us. The theme is leaving no one behind. Indigenous people and the call for a new social contract. I feel it's very self-explanatory. No one leave behind. It's self-explanatory. Very focused theme United Nations has given us to think on the problems of indigenous people. But the question arises here when I read this thing, that what does it mean? No one leave behind, I can understand, but what does it mean? What is social contract? And then also question comes, if it is a social contract, though it is self-explanatory, the social contract with whom? So I'll just try to make it simplify. Let's see what is social contract and whether we are involved in this social contract, and if it is yes, then what would be our role in this social contract. See, the social contract is an unwritten agreement that societies make to unite for a social and economic benefits of the indigenous people. It's an unwritten agreement with ourselves. So social contract is made or was made among the dominant population, among the foremost population, among the leading population. I feel we all are, it means we all are involved in this social contract. So there are 2 points which United Nations believe, and everyone should be agree on this. So what are these 2 points? That when United Nations say that no one leave behind, it means all the people should have basic rights such as liberty and life. These two, that everyone should have a freedom, everyone should have a liberty, everyone should have, their own life. And then the another, when we say that they should have a liberty, they should have a freedom, it means they should also have right to change the unfair laws of the society and making the whole society a better. So I feel social contract is the most essential foundation of all, that is moral. So our moral values, our morality are involved in this social contract. And we all are involved in this social contract from today itself, that we should, remember in our mind that it's our responsibility to this slogan, no one leave behind, leaving no one behind. Of course, today we are celebrating, and particularly we are here to educate the public, or educate ourselves, I'll say, because this is not the public, of course, speech. No, just awareing ourselves about the issues of the indigenous people. Now, when the indigenous people we thought of, indigenous people's issues, I feel it's very, very vast, and it's very difficult to cover all the issues. But at least here I'll try to touch as many as possible, and then I'll just leave it to you to think on this social contract and our self-responsibility. UNESCO has reported long back, and I think in 2003, that indigenous people numbering more than 370 millions in some 90 countries. And they speak overwhelmingly majority of the world's estimated 7,000 languages, and they are represent more than 5,000 different cultures. But today, these indigenous languages, I'll take one by one. Indigenous languages are at the same level of endangerment. They are particularly vulnerable, and they are in danger of becoming extinct. And why? First thing, that these languages are spoken only by a handful of the elders and are not being acquired by the children. And as the remaining native speakers, they are dying, or they die one by one, the languages are also dying on the one hand. Other hand, many of these languages, they are not taught in the school or used in the public sphere. Now, why I'm saying that, it's very dangerous that the languages are dying, because the extinction of language is a great loss for the humanity. It constitutes the invaluable loss of the traditional knowledge as well as cultural diversity. This is for us. But other hand, for the indigenous people themselves, the loss is even greater, especially since many of the indigenous languages exist only orally and cannot therefore be retrieved once they are no longer spoken. So language, furthermore, is not only the tool of communication, but it is linked to the land, to the region traditionally occupied by these indigenous people. And therefore, it is an essential component of one's collective and individual identity. Because language gives the identity. And therefore, since it gives the identity, it provides identity, it also provides the sense of belonging and the sense of community. So when languages dies, the sense of community is also damaged. And the today's situation, today's indigenous languages have been dying. This is the first issue. I just am telling you. Now, for the indigenous people, they not only face the language, land, identity problem, but simultaneously they are also facing the high rates of poverty and acute socio-economic disadvantage, high level of income and wealth inequality, institutional instability, corruption, financial crisis, increased crime, and lack of justice, education, health services. And these all incline to create the intense social tension and conflict. Now, this was my, intention to tell about this languages, their problems, because these problems, land, language, identity, economy, health, justice, education, all are creating the social tensions and all are leading to the social conflicts. Now, if you see the contemporary situation in the world, over the recent years and decades, many countries, they wanted to discourse this issue. They are talking about this issue. They are trying to solve these issues, including through the regrets, through reconciliations efforts, through legislative or constitutional reforms for the development of this indigenous people. So we have two sides, what the problems these indigenous people are facing, at the same time what the government is doing, what the foremost leading population is doing. At the international level, these efforts have included the adoption of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of the Indigenous People and the advisory bodies such as Permanent Forum for these indigenous peoples issue. For the United Nations, I think since 1945, the indigenous movement has one of the most active civil society discussers of the United Nations. And through these movements, there are three consequences of this movement that I'll tell you. First, that what this movement have given us, that is the first, that the new awareness of indigenous people concerns and human rights. This is, I think, very important that we should aware about the indigenous people's issues and about their human rights. The second, recognition of the indigenous people's invaluable contribution to the humanity's cultural diversity and heritage, not least through their traditional knowledge. So they have immensely contributed to the cultural diversity. And the third, that is awareness of the need to address the issues of indigenous people through the policies, through the legislation, and through the budget. Now, United Nations 2030's agenda is the most important agenda. It is what? The eradicating poverty in all its forms and the dimensions and reducing the inequality. And as per the United Nations preamble of the United Nations preamble, what it says, the society, the whole society, you know. So when it says the whole society, which includes governments, social activists, foremost populations, leading populations, indigenous people, women, academia, and the scientists, all have to play the role in building and redesigning the new social contract, and that serve the interest of we, the people. This is what United Nations is expecting from us, and this is what their preamble, that everyone should unite, including whether they are academicians, whether they are scientists, whether women, whether men, whether leading population, whether indigenous people, everyone should unite, and they should unite, they should build, they should redesign the new social contract and serve the interest of we. So we all are one, to save the interest of we, the people. And one more thing they have mentioned, they have focused, that is that indigenous people's right to participate in the decision making. So they feel if they should have a right to participate in the decision making, they should be the decision maker instead of we are deciding for them. So they should be the decision maker, and this decision making would be the key component in understanding between the indigenous people and foremost population. So what they want, what we want, what they want, what the government want, and that would be the key component of understanding them. And I feel here that anthropologists have the leading role, the main role as a mediator between the indigenous people and leading population, between the indigenous people and the state. Now, there are many arguments. William sir also focused on that development, because of the development, tribals are losing their identity, you know. So one of the new paradigms that has been promoted, I think, from 2006, and that one of the this paradigm, and that is promoted by many several United Nations agencies, and that paradigm is very, very important, I feel, and that paradigm is development with the identity. We can't leave them as it is, you know. Development should be there, but development with the identity is most important. So this development with the identity is promoted by the several agencies of United Nations, including IFAD, IDB, and UNESCO. So what it says, that in its operational policy on indigenous people and strategy for the indigenous development, this paradigm was accepted in the 2006, and it says, I'll just quote what they are saying. It is, they says, to process that includes strengthening of the indigenous people, harmony and sustained interaction with their environment, sound management of natural resources and territories, and the creation and exercise of authority and respect for the rights and values of indigenous people, including cultural, economic, social, institutional rights in accordance with their worldview and governance. So this challenge for the strategy lies in supporting and promoting the development initiatives and organizational system unique to indigenous people in order to improve their living condition through their own leadership and in a manner consistent with each community specific socio-economic development opportunities that would strengthen their identity, culture, territory, natural resources, and social organization, and reduce the material poverty and marginalization. So this is what the United Nations has given one paradigm, that is development with the identity. I'll come to what is situation in India, in our country. Now, we all know that India is a home of multiple indigenous groups. And among the India's people at the periphery, I'll say, so at the periphery level it's all indigenous. There are, I think we all know that they almost 8% these indigenous here. I'm focusing only on the tribal groups. They are constituting about 8% of the country's population, and everyone is having their own distinct socio-cultural traits and identities. And today's situation is that today they are at the different levels of socio-economic development. Everyone's socio-economic development level is different. And why this is so? Because the main reason I feel it's a social exclusion. Social exclusion and marginalization has resulted in the backwardness and poverty among these indigenous communities. So social exclusion, what has done, they have tribals, they have, or the indigenous people, we can say, they are excluded from the public goods and services on one hand, and access to implications, has implications social relations with the outside world. So the period and severity of the social exclusion and marginalization varied from one tribal group to another. So India is one of those nation states of the world that have accorded elaborate preferential treatment to this indigenous group. The Constitution of India, we know, has enriched several protective measures for the welfare and development of this indigenous group, and has also attempted to foster their socio-economic development by focusing on, many parameters are there, by focusing on food security, by focusing on their health, education, employment, income generation. Everything is there. However, the expected level of development has not reached. This is also the fact. So there is the vast gap between these indigenous people and the rest of the population. So if when we have a lots of strategy for the development, but still there is a vast gap between the indigenous people and rest of the population, then there is a need to analyze the development process that never addresses the livelihood problems of this marginalized. And I feel that livelihood is the most important problem of the indigenous people, and the nature of benefits potentially available to them. These are the two important things. These indigenous people, they I have already stated that they always remain at the periphery of the economic development plans made for them, as their livelihood is still dependent on the agriculture and forest related activities. They are not familiar with any other commercial economic activity. To top of this, who are having land, their land is dry, unirrigated and not substantial, and therefore they are just subsidiary farmers and work as a laborers in the other fields, and this has led to poverty, indebtedness, lack of awareness, low purchasing ability, as well as bargaining power, lack of economic activity, and other expenses. So another problem is planned development in the form of dams, mines, roads, industries in the areas of these tribal areas. They followed the throughout process of the tribal displacement that is leading to the conflict between the development and protection of tribal rights and their interest. Now I'll just quote, I'll not quote, I'll just tell you that many studies, many scholars, many social activists, they have talked about the adverse effect of the development on the indigenous people. And they also says that the indigenous peoples are now, they are the victim of civilization. And they have these studies, they have rejected the credits of development. What these studies says, what these social activists or one group, one side, one approach, they says that the process of development, in the process of development, tribals are losing their religion, their language, dialects, identity, and land. This is what this study's main argument, that in the process of development, the tribals are losing their land, they are losing their identity, they are losing their languages. And they also says that they are becoming alcoholic, they are becoming beggars. The other argument is there is also the cultural degenerations among the tribes. And according to and in the course of development is awful. It is publicized by the government, professionals, and the poor tribals are trapped into this inhuman circle, that this development process, they have trapped the indigenous people in the inhuman circle. However, now this is my argument, these studies have not at all talked about the inclusion of the tribes, inclusion of this indigenous people, or the development of this indigenous people. Now, I feel that development is an exogenous efforts to bring about the change. It is the exogenous efforts, outsiders' efforts to bring about the change. So in this process, the two configuration contrasting conception, two concepts are different. Contrasting conceptions and notions, they come face to face. And then change is happening. My question here that can we still keep indigenous people in isolation, excluded, and in a poverty without any outside cultural contact and influences? Can we afford this? Can we keep them as it is? Can we keep them in the way they have stayed for the centuries? Or can we afford to deprive them of the benefits of modernization, science, and technology? Because it is in India, the population is 8%. 8% population can, this is just, I'm telling the indigenous tribal population. We have SC's population also, and we keep them as it is. So if we want to improve their economy, health, nutrition, and livelihood, then how are we going to achieve it? Because now in the social contract, we all are the participants. We are all are the members to think about the no one can leave behind. So that was one point. On the other side, there are studies highlighting the backwardness of these indigenous people and their underdevelopment and insist on their development. So evidently, there is an ambivalence regarding the development as also the urgent need of an alternative. Now, one study has scored that due to the policy of reservation, there is an increasing awareness and education of the middle class of indigenous group. These groups are, this is what the another study is quoting. So what are the what has happened because of the constitutional safeguards or reservation policy? So this study is saying that these groups are participating in the regional economy, politics, and society. However, at the same time, the entire tribal belt in the middle India remains very backward and trapped in the poverty and unrest. The tribal development planning in India has clubbed the entire tribal group together and considered them as a homogeneous group. However, in reality, their problems are not identified for a standardized uniform development program is the solution. So few tribal groups identified as a primitive groups were not included in the tribal subplan. Special provisions were made for them, which however remain disproportionate. So my one more argument that there is a vast distinction between the development of non-tribals and tribal. Our development program have included Human Development Index, that is HDI, of the development given by the United Nations Development Program. Now, what is there in Human Development Index, such as education, literacy, health, income, employment, and political participation, and have a human development approach. These are the different parameters. However, the tribals have the lowest HDI when compared with the communities of the Indian society. However, the crucial problem of the tribal currently is livelihood. What is their main problem? That is, their livelihood is their main problem, and in search of livelihood, tribals are losing their traditional habitat and their rights over the resources of their traditional habitat. So resources less and landless tribals have no identity, and thus they have become the wage laborers or slum dwellers. The livelihood opening for the tribals are exceptionally inadequate. All this is leading to the malnutrition, infant mortality, child mortality, indebtedness, loss of land, and the right to resources and decision making. Everything is, it's a consequences of this. Sanitation, drinking water, heavy dropouts from the school, and low literacy associated with the lack of schools and absence of teachers. So in addition to this, the lack of economic resources. So main problem is livelihood, and livelihood is creating the different problems for them. Due to the lack of livelihood or economic resources, there is a feeling of exclusion and alienations among the tribes of India. So there is a need that livelihood indicator should be included in the HDI. I'll just tell you the some of the reports has given by United Nations Development Program, Human Development Index, and Planning Commission of Government of India. They have shown that the level of poverty among the scheduled tribes is deeper despite the constitutional rights and that apply uniquely to them. It was also found that while poverty among the general population had declined between 93-94 2000, there had been a little change in the poverty level of these indigenous people. They have just compared the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, and report says that the scheduled caste have fared better than the scheduled tribes in terms of poverty reduction. The poverty gap between the scheduled caste and other groups in India has decreased, while between the scheduled tribes and other groups has widened. So further, the report says that the scheduled tribes also score lower in education, health, and other socio-economic aspects measured by the HDI. Indigenous communities in India are typically rural, and poverty among the rural communities is higher than the urban areas. So there are few people without land among the scheduled tribes, but their lands have low productivity. The more productive lands, especially in low-lying areas, have taken over by the other communities. Very important report is given by the Planning Commission of Government of India and UNDP. There is also less job diversification among the scheduled tribes. Deprived of formal education and with the little access of capital, they fail to find work, either self-employed or within regular jobs, and ending up in a casual employment or in agriculture. This is what the situation. Now, there is one more report. That report is based on between census report between the 2001 and 2011 census report, and what it says that very important to note that the tribal cultivators reduced by 10%. Tribal cultivators, they are reduced by 10%, while the number of agriculture laborers increased by 9%. What it says in detail, that tribals are quitting farming fast. Every second household now survives on manual labor in an informal economy. 66% of tribal population survive on this primary sector livelihood sources. But in recent decades, the number of tribal farmers is coming down and more are becoming agricultural laborers. In past decades, 3.5 million tribal have quit farming and other related activities. This indicates and return from direct farming or people simply don't have resources to do farming. In absence of no other activity, they are the informal labor force. Now, this is one more point to be noted, that is more than, see, this is, I have told you that the cultivators, they are reducing by 10%. The other thing that the more than 50% of India's tribal population, they have moved out from the traditional habitat. What that report says, that about the 55% of tribal population now reside outside habitat, and it is known that migration of the tribal population. Increasingly, this migration is increasingly distress driven and has it's increasing. One more point I would like to do here. Worked on one project caste in private sector. It's a huge project, but where we found that from the project, it is research, it is evident that caste diversity at private sector in Pune is very less, and for the scheduled tribe, it is nil. We didn't get the single candidate from the scheduled tribe. And the another project was which has shown that the below poverty line survey that has shown that BPL families are all belonging, mostly they are belonging to the SCs, and OBCs. They all BPL level families, they are all SCs and OBCs. So again, I'll come to the migration. So the report which I was quoting earlier about the 50% of the tribals, they have moved from their traditional habitat. So that says that the displacement and enforced migration have led to an increased number of scheduled tribes working as a contract laborers. They are contract laborers in the construction industries and as a domestic workers in the major cities. And one of the every two tribal households rely on manual labor for the survival. I feel this is very important situation. I'll come to a conclusion, and at the end, I'll come again to what is move on the social contract. So I think, Anjali, I have time. I'm just concluding that there must be, this is my personal opinion, that though we have planned development policies, but there must be something wrong with the ways of achieving development. The functioning of development program or with the tribal themselves. So then here there is a need of the social contract to understanding between the indigenous people and state, or understanding between the indigenous people and the foremost population. So I feel there is a need to investigate the failure of the welfare model of development as applied to tribal India, or as well as the tribal experience of, one is very much helpful. Should focus on the qualitative aspects of human development as well. And indigenous people should be psychologically motivated. They should be psychologically motivated to adopt the new skill. This is also a need, today's need. You know, we their culture. You know, I feel they will once they educate, they will learn themselves how to maintain their own culture. So they should be psychologically motivated to adopt the new skill and programs that are introduced in order to change their lifestyle or change their attitude. This is what I personally feel. Then government and social scientists, social workers, social activists should take an urgent step to organize some activities that I'm recommending. That first, satisfy the basic needs, that is livelihood of the tribals through re-establishing the resources. Second, build the inner strength of the tribals and regain their confidence in reaffirming their dignity. Empower indigenous people. Empowerment is very much, it is essential. Encourage their participation in the decision making process through the gram panchayat, or through, there are many resources are available. Address the impact of their participation on the path to the socio-economic and political development. Identify the historical and contextual factors that hinders as well as contribute to the process of development. We will have to find out both the, you know, what are the factors that are hindering, becoming obstacle to the development. Also, what are the factors that are contributing towards the development. And therefore, you know, this, what a long back I had written one paper, development of the underdeveloped, which is published also long back, but where I had, you know, this suggestions I had given. And the same thing I found yesterday when I read the this slogan, that is, you know, a call for a social contract. No one should leave behind. So I feel the social contract is nothing other than this, which is saying it's our responsibility, it's social, it's agreement, unwritten agreement with among ourselves for you know, it's our responsibility for the development of the indigenous people. So I feel we must appeal indigenous peoples inclusion, participation, and socio. There should be united drive. There should be united drive to confirm that no one will be left behind. And therefore, the connection and social contract as an expression of a collaboration for the social interest and common good for humanity is very much required. So what is the novel? You know, the same thing, what my recommendation I had suggested a few years back, a novel of, I'll just put it in the novel of social contract or new social contract. So first, that the social contract must be created on honest involvement and cooperation that raise the equal opportunity and respect the right, dignity, and freedom of the indigenous people. This we should remember. The social contract must comprehend to listen to indigenous people's voice, needs, and concern. I think this is very much lacking because we always analyze the society from our perspective. Anthropologists have that knack, to be and we see the society from the insider's perspective, and that is needed here. The emic perspective, I feel, needed here in this social contract, that we should listen indigenous voice, their needs, their concern from their. We must fight the legacy of, or this new social, I'm saying the we, it means this new social contract that we are doing among ourselves. So we must fight the legacy of exclusion and marginalization that affect the indigenous people. We must have their meaningful and effective participation to attain their able, formal, and informed harmony and consent. This social contract must contain the collective and individual rights of these indigenous peoples and recognized in the United Nations Declaration on Rights of the Indigenous People. So, and if we do this, see this social contract we are doing among ourselves for the indigenous people. So once this contract is established, once this we it also, we need to implement, we need to follow this social contract. Then we expected to keep our promises, cooperate with one and make sure agenda. What is this agenda? That is the eradicating of the poverty and establishing the equality till 2030. So I think I'll stop here, and I thank Dr. Anjali Chandra. I'm very thankful to her for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to share my views about people and about the social contract. I thank you all and I wish you all the best. Thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your lecture and all the points that you have given as per United Nations, and also you have quoted the ground realities, that how much it is needed, the inclusion of these scheduled tribes and also the indigenous people as they are called at the world level. So thank you, ma'am, with your wide and rich experience. You have enlightened us also. And I request you, ma'am, to remain here for some questions. What we'll do, we'll have Romesh sir's lecture also, and then we'll take up the questions due to the time.
Yes, fine.
So please be here, ma'am. Yeah. Mani sir, are you there? Mani sir, to introduce Romesh sir.
Okay.
Sir is from Hyderabad University, anthropology professor, and
Okay. So, Professor, I welcome you, sir. Professor Ramesh Singh is a professor in the Department of Anthropology, University of Hyderabad. Business anthropology, urban anthropology, development anthropology, and tribal studies. His recent interest in the research, the field of business anthropology, and he has been teaching business anthropology and he has carried out his major field work, the tribal area, Manipur, tribal area of Telangana. So besides this, he also gained research experience in organization behavior and corporate culture studies. And he has done intensive field studies in corporate and public sector organization. And he has contributed various books and presented paper in many international and national conference. And he also published 3 books. He has authored 3 books, and he is a recipient of UEC Research Award 2002 and 2014, and he has given Chancellor Award for his contribution towards teaching and research in the University of Hyderabad in 2017, and he is a visiting professor, visiting scholar at the Department of Anthropology, University of North Texas, USA, for Roman postdoc of Doctoral Fellowship 2015 and 16, and he served as a head of the department during 2017 to 2020. So this vast experience, he is Ramesh Singh sir, I am handovering the session with his brief introductory remarks. So now Ramesh will take care.
Thank you, Mani sir. Anjali, is it audible? My voice is audible to you?
Yes, yes, sir, very much clear. Yes.
Okay. So I think first of all, I think I just want to give you a small disclaimer for my presentation that in I am so involved into the presentation, so I may talk something which may hurt the sentiment of the people who are there. But I have a different. Please, if you have any issue with that, I think you can just email to me, and because it's been really disturbing me for quite a long time. So today, it's I think first before starting my discussion on that, I'll try to say a few words on the respected Vice Chancellor and respected Registrar, and I think Dean sir, Professor William sir is there, and the organizing committee, that especially Dr. Anjali, who has taken the initiative to organize the same platform with Anjali madam, whom I have respect. I have so much respect, and she is like our mentor, guide to us. And then so first, I think, and the other distinguished colleagues of the Gandhigram University and the other participant students and scholars who are there in this webinar. First, I just want to start with some of the things which the moment when Anjali sent me the title of the this World Indigenous Day, the theme paper, and then I was just wondering that leaving no one behind, and then developing a new social contract. Okay, so this is the that strikes me so much, and then I have been thinking about this, and then just it's very important to tell you that today, World Indigenous Day, it has been celebrating now, even in our university also, all across the world, and I think that it's thanks to the COVID-19 that because it's happening in webinar. Otherwise, people will be spending lots of money on the samosa and high tea and all that, and then inviting guests, speakers from paying the airfares and all that, and the tribals are crying in the full hill areas and the forest areas, and we'll be sitting in the AC room and talking about indigenous people and sensitizing about the indigenous people. How long we will be sensitized about the tribal people? I just want to speak on this. See, how long? See, this is in the coming few days, we will be celebrating 75 years of independence. And then we have been talking about the tribal development for the last 75 years. And if you include the British period, and then it's been more than 75 years. And it doesn't mean that we don't know anything about tribals. We are well aware about the tribals, basically. Only thing is that the responsibility, who takes the responsibility, who take this issue into the front foot. That is a basic issue which we are confronting. And I strongly say that this leaving no one behind and developing new social contract. What is this? Nothing. It is old wines in new bottle, playing with the jargon. See, why I am saying this, I am very strong advocate of tribal development because see, and another thing I just want to admit you that I am going to speak about tribal development today in this podium after 15 years because I have stopped. I have not spoken for so long because I find it that it's like whenever I go for seminars on tribal development, it looks like a recycling. It's like Hindi film songs, remix. Now new singers are making the old Purana songs into the new musics, and then people are enjoying it. So similar kind of things are happening. See, and then another thing is that in the tribal studies is the one fertile area for the academicians in India. This is the most studied by the academicians than any other topics in Indian society. You see, if you take any scholar, and if you look at the history of India, because why I am talking about this thing is that because I work for my MA, MPhil, and PhD, and for on tribal studies only. But in 2010, I started debating from tribal studies to corporate and business studies. That is different matter. I was just talking about this thing in Anjali yesterday. But now today, the point which I am trying to highlight here is that if you look at the history of tribal studies in India, it is predominantly done by the anthropologists. If you look at the 19th. There, anthropology is, it is like a silo of, children of, kids of anthropology. It is the, subject matter of anthropology. That is the reason why many people synonym the anthropology discipline with the tribal studies, because we have done so much study. And then now what is happening is that after 1990s, now establishment of new centers like CSEB and many other centers coming in, and now most of the social scientists started working on the tribal society. And now, frankly speaking, please don't mind, I'm telling you, in many areas, tribals are running away from academicians. See, the situation has come. See, we have been repeatedly studying them, and talking about them, losing confidence on the people who are coming to their places. Because see, so this is just a background. So we have enough study. We have done enough studies, and then it has been done from time to time. And in the recent study, which I remember, is that a high-level committee which was headed by the Virginis Kaka. It was published in 2014. That even that report also clearly depicted that. But one thing, what I am saying that different, subsequently different kind of reports and the findings have come up on the tribal studies. But I find that its contents are quite same. If you look at from, today I just want to quote one, quote which was given by LP Vidyarthi in 1972. He said that, it is a high time that a fresh look to be given to classify the scheduled tribes and scheduled areas in the form of ecosystem and the level of their development. See, this is what we are talking today. This was said by the LP Vidyarthi in 1972, you see. And the same thing is happening. That's what I said, that all wine in a new bottle. It is like, repeating the same thing again and again. But the issue is that we are not able to see. And then another thing I just want to bring as a disclaimer. That's what I said, that disclaimer is just to protect myself. Another thing I said, that you tell me, any one of you here who are listening to this seminar, that you tell me, India, any tribal village which is not studied by academicians. No tribal remains today. We have studied. If imagine, instead of organizing seminars, then spending lots of money on this, if each research scholars, academicians take initiative of doing something for those tribal in terms of empowerment, in terms of new social contract, whatever new jargons we are using. If you take each scholars, academicians takes responsibility of developing their respective study tribe, and then try to help them in a possible way. that's what I believe in the action anthropology, which was, one of the doyens in Indian anthropology, N.K. Bose. He is the one who has developed the Lodha tribes in West Bengal. See, he himself he believed that it's not writing about tribal is not sufficient. We need to involve along with the people. So what my point is that instead of, you twisting with the jargons, playing with the policy, if we, each one of us, who have studied tribal society, if we take the responsibility, of, taking them forward to the, larger society, then I think it will have a larger impact than just talking about the so many things in the seminars and other things. Because, see, why I'm telling you all these things is that this is a high time we need to think. Because recently, a few years ago, American anthropologists have taken the very strong position that, its writing is not sufficient. When you write a very beautiful article in Nature, and high scopus journals, this is not for your individual gain. Academicians are using tribal as a fertile place, fertile subject for their academic gain, individual gain. See, I studied on tribal, and then see what those tribal whom I have studied are gaining from my study. See, the issue is that individual gains are more, highlighted in our academicians. See, that is the reason why in a few years ago, the American anthropologists, basically, they have taken the very strong, decision that there's a need for, public anthropology. You have to go to the public. It's not, writing is not sufficient, you see. See, when you claim that, anthropology is a discipline which can understand the human being, it's sometimes back in the few years, decades ago, the L.P. Vidyasi said that we are the doctors, social doctors, who can provide the, solution for the social problems. See, if we are the doctor, then who take care of? This is some of the background which I would like to give to you. But now, despite of saying all these things, I just want to take you to the historical background, because it's very important to know how tribal have been approached so far by the Britishers and then Indian government. It doesn't mean that, we cannot keep complaining about the, administration and the bureaucrats all the time, because we should also take the responsibility. And there's a different kind of strategies adopted in a sequence of historical pursuits. That's what I just want to tell you, that because otherwise it looks like, we have not done anything for the tribals, you see. And then there are certain situations where, things have become very inevitable, so that tribals are going to affect with this kind of, impact. So before going into all those things, I just want to bring you certain kind of, issue like the historical approach. See, if you look from the colonial perspective, sir, see, basically colonial people kept the tribal people for the excluded and partially excluded act was established, and they don't come under the general jurisdiction of the, Britishers, like what they do for the other population in India. So because the reason for the keeping them isolated was that because they are little susceptible about their hostile character in the sense that they are hunter-gatherers, so it may be dangerous for their administration. That's why they kept isolated. And then second, the major setback was the introduction of the national forest policy by the British. That was a basic drawback. Why I said it's a basic drawback, it was introduced in 1874. And moreover, they have been kept isolated, and then introducing of National Forest Act, which restrict them to utilize the forest products. So and over exploitation of the forest resources was happened, and it generated lots of income for the Britishers, you see. So, and then the basic reason for keeping them isolated was just to, make their administration much easier. See, this is what, and then immediately after, after India gets independence, then what is the framework which we use is that everyone knows that Jawaharlal Nehru's 5 Panchashil, which what we talk about. If you look at that 5 Panchashil, all the framework which we have been talking about, participatory empowerment, everything, all this falls into those categories, you see. So he is a visionary leader who has spoken about how the tribal has to be treated. But he has already given then there are policy which has been created on those lines. And then I was just remembering that Din sir was talking about the isolation part. See, isolation was because earlier people was very skeptical about the integrating tribal into the mainstream, because that may lead to over exploitation of the tribal people. That's why, and isolation is also not the acceptable policy, where because you cannot they are part of country India, and we have to go along with them. You see, taking along with them in the process of development. You cannot keep them isolated, and you cannot keep them like a Tarzan. See, they also have a different lifestyles and different, but even then they should be integrated So growth has to be, together. It's not just I become a, scientist and I grow and then they remain like a primitive person. No, it's not acceptable as a policy. And then assimilation is what about one of the sociologists talks about the Gure spoke about assimilation, policy of assimilation. They said that most of tribal culture is quite similar with the Hindu culture. That's why they have to be, if we have to take them into the, Hindu fold so that the assimilation will help them to, inculcate the culture of Hindu. So that is also, that will definitely lead to the, the loss of tribal identity, you see. So finally, the most acceptable policy, the policy of integration, which is accepted and applicable till today, under the, Article 342, with the integration approach, this has been, all the scheduled tribe has come under the category of scheduled tribes. Okay, and then and there are different committees which works on this because see why I'm telling that now everybody has forgotten that what has been done for the last 75 years. So I'm just trying to recap all those things. See, there are Elin Committee, Devar Commission, and LP Vidyarthi Task Force Committee. There are many committees which work on tribal development, and they have recommended many policies and programs, and they try to implement, and it was again reviewed by the different committees, and then they have given the different suggestions and they improve upon that. So there's a expansion. But I should tell you that there is a slow progress. It's accepted, even still that is there. But the issue is that there's a policy. The policies are very good. I'm telling you, the process, the implementation is the issue in our society. So, and so the very important, landmark, the breaking through turning points in tribal policy in India is that the introduction of tribal sub-plan, which was in the fifth year of, fifth 5-year plan of, every 5-year plan, that the tribal sub-plan, where it has given lots of importance. The focus was given on, the area which are having majority of the more than 75% of the tribal populations comes under this. So they are trying to focus and giving wider coverage for the tribal people for the development, and then that leads to, establishment of the integrated tribal development agencies in every state. Okay, and the MADA is basically, it's very important one, which is basically focus on modified area development agency, because some of the tribal inhabitants are live in a very different situated in a different pockets, areas, geographical location. Those things will be covered by MADA projects, and then particularly vulnerable tribal groups. These are also some of the scheme. And then this under this sub-plan, there are different kind of provision has been given, like prevention for exploitation, development of agriculture, employment opportunity, provision for infrastructure, special groups there, and then in addition to this, and again, another turning point was that, to improve the, political participation of the tribal people, because until and unless you are actively involved in the political process, then whatever we are talking about, decision making and other things, you cannot involve. You see, so that is the reason why government has taken this issue into very serious concern. Then the PESA Act, it was introduced in 1996. It was a turning point. That is the reason why today we could see the tribal political leaders. You see, in India, at least number is less still, but what I'm saying is that why we are able to see the tribal leaders in Indian politics today is, and some of them plays a very important role in the growth of the country, and then other as well as the tribal society. So the reason why I said it is because the credit goes to PESA Act. PESA Act gives you the political empowerment, the assured kind of participation to the political processes. Until and unless you are not involved in the political process, the decision, political, decision making is more important for our, society, the kind of democracy which we have. So that is what PESA Act in 1996 has given a certain kind of, beneficial to the tribal society. That is the reason why we could see many of the tribal leaders emerging from many of the remote areas and the interior places, and now they are sitting in the Delhi. And then another thing is that apart from this, now you will be remembering that there are different safeguards and protections, you see, which has given, about we know that they have been suffering with the different kind of, issues. And then this has been, it is not only one time issue. When they have been exploited, their rights and then their obtained, for longer time. It has accumulated to the larger, suppression and oppression. That is the reason why it has made kind of social, issues in the safety. These are the safeguards with directive state policy, which talks about the social safeguard, education, culture, political safeguard, service safeguard, economic safeguards, okay, and protection of civil rights, bonded labor system, child labor, and forest conservation. All these things are there. But I just want to tell you that how many tribals knows about these safeguards and protections and how these development programs. See, the issue is about the ignorance, but who has to take the responsibility? So we academicians speak in the seminar rooms about all these things because we know that. See, I don't need the Ministry of Tribal Affairs to come and tell me about all these things. I don't need. And these schemes are not meant for me. It is meant for the tribal people who are struggling in the forest, and they don't have a time to see all these safeguards. And they don't. There's some kind of agency is required to bring them and make them aware about these things so that they can fight for their rights and the other things. Because Constitution has already put into the place the system, okay, but system has to be, you have to approach and you have to, get into the system and then fight for it. So, but this can be done by very few people. When now, I think thanks to this, some of the reservation policy which government has introduced for the scheduled tribe, and because of that, we could see some of the, some of our colleagues and some of the people, educated people, and then there are some of the very highly qualified people. If I don't want to see, they are, working for the tribal people, and then see the bringing awareness. But the simple logic which I was telling you, see, most of the academicians who works on tribal society, they are aware about this the tribal subplan, what are the benefits comes under tribal subplan, and then what are the protection and safeguard, which I have just spelled out here. These things, we know it, but tribals doesn't know. But what is the purpose? I should know. See, it is not applicable. The basic purpose of these things is for the tribal. It's meant for the tribal. So tribals should be aware of this, and who has to make aware of this? So we need to take, that's what I'm saying, the action anthropology or public anthropology, which is one of the very important subject which is coming up in the United States today. Because the paradigm shift has come that it's not, see, so when you write about these things in the journal, how many people read the journal? Even if journal is, see, one of the very popular journals in India, we see many of the journals, how many? Very few people read, you see. So reading and writing is not sufficient now. We need to be, involved in the action process, because we are considered as, educated people who has certain kind of knowledge, and we know the pros and consequences of tribal development and what are the benefits which is providing. And I see, even many of the tribal people, more than 75% of the people, they don't know that there's the existence of Ministry of Tribal Affairs, which was started in 1999. See, this is the initiative which the government has taken, and then Ministry of Tribal Affairs has been headed by the tribal person. You see, the issue is that the awareness, the ignorance, it is killing the whole purpose of development which we are talking about. So, whom to blame for this? See, whom to blame for this is the issue here. That's what I'm saying. This is high time we academicians should also take the, lead role, just not leaving this thing to the politicians and the bureaucrats, you see. Because I strongly feel that we academicians are the grounded people in the sense that we are the people who have a real empirical experience, the fieldwork experience. We live with the people and study them. When you have a better experience, because bureaucrats and the ministers, no, they don't have a much experience about the people. They imagine how the life will be and how they want to make the life of people. That's what Anjali Madam was talking about, the mixed perspective. How we understand the tribal life. See, we have a life experience with the tribal people. See, we have been working for the tribal for the last 15 years, no? And then, see, the knowledge which I have, I think many of the anthropologists and other social scientists, academicians will have a better field knowledge. So that's what we have a lot to contribute to this, this paradigm shift. That's what, otherwise we will be rolling around the bushes and then, putting old wines in the new bottle, all this, playing with. It happens in 90s, empowerment, people participations, no, and then now new social contract, no, and then all these things this will keep coming. But the issue is that who has to take these things to the needy people? That is the issue which I am telling. So, and here I am just telling you that there's enough development initiatives has been taken. Again, lots of money has been spent, and then money part. If you see that the high level committee reports, all the data are there, because I don't want to give those numbers here. See, there's lots of programs happening around, but only who gets a benefit? That is the question here. Only affluent tribal people, affluent, very few, maybe 10% or 15% people are getting the majority of the benefit. All the benefit goes to them for the last 25 years. Since the Ministry of Tribal Affairs have established by the government of India, all the benefits have been going to the affluent tribal people. Then poor tribal people are being denied of all these opportunities because of the lack of awareness and ignorance, and then there is no person to support them in this. So there's a need for, and so in this situation, the need for education. That is what education is, very important for not only the tribal people, for all of us. Education enlighten the people. Justice, and so through education you get to know many things. So that is how the things are. But apart from, despite of all these development initiatives which I have spoken about, introduction of tribal development agencies, and we see in the under role model, many of the tribal so states, like even if you take my own state, Manipur state, we don't have a better, many of the tribal agencies are defunct almost, except a few administrative things, So the same kind of similar situation must be happening in other places also. But I would say that especially ITDA, many of the ITDA, which is located in Khammam district, it is doing a very exceptional good work. So it also depends on the who comes as a project IS officers, you see. So there's lots of things has to be there. So social contract has to happen, which is social contract. It doesn't mean that, see, I was talking about this word social contract. Why? Because it is not new. The social contract is happening since the government started introducing the new programs to the tribal area. But what way it is happening is a problem. We need to relook. The fresh look is required for this social contract. Social contract is happening between the tribals and non-tribals since the very beginning, even from British time. But it was a one-way traffic kind of thing. We are just imposing things. No, it doesn't mean that we don't introduce. See, they're introducing to the tribal areas and then getting into tribal, exploiting them. So that's it. But it should not be in that way. It should be two-way process, balanced reciprocity. It should be some kind of mutual understanding, sharing. All these things should happen. And now, because of all these, issues, have contributed to the different kind of programs which is happening in today's tribal society. What is the main one is about the land acquisition of land for the displacement. See, why displacement? I just want to give you, many people talk about the I had one conference earlier just few years ago about the development dilemma, about how the displacement is required or not. See, I would tell you that development is required. You see, India is a second largest populated country, and if India has to feed all the population in the country, you need to have an industrial establishment, dams, mining. These things are very much important in our society because we have a huge population to feed and to sustain. So for that, you need to have an industrial development and all this agricultural development, technological development. These things are very much important. But the issue is that when you want to establish the industry, which area you look for? See, industrial establishment, for example, it's not just about establishing that industry. You need to create the amenities and infrastructure for the people who are going to work in the industry. So you need a larger space for the establishment. So, and whether you can get this kind of space in the, other areas, because then the tribal areas become very, prone for this kind of issues. So that is the why reason, and tribal areas are known for the rich mineral resources. And then another, most importantly, tribal lands are people gets in the cheaper price. You see, that is the reason why their lands have been targeted. But so that is because, and then another thing is about when we talk about the globalization. Globalization, when we talk about the, keeping the tribal, as it, they let them develop in their own. It is not like that today. Once upon a time, Elwin talks about that. One of the very eminent anthropologists talks about that. But now, globalization is such a cruel and it's such a serious forces where no one can stop. I am telling you, including me, even including tribals. Like when rain comes, who can stop the rain? Similarly, globalization is also similar kind of forces. It is like, that's what I always say, that it's like a connecting people. It always penetrates to the all across the world. So there's no question that you can stop intruding to the tribal area for in terms of cultural exchange, in terms of economic exchange, in terms of political. It is going to reach the tribal people. See, it's like similarly, when the rain comes, we cannot stop the rain. Okay? But we can provide the umbrella to protect from the rain. See, the issue is about the enhancing capacity to face the new challenges. This is the area which we need to focus more on. We cannot think of stopping the external influences. And many of tribal people also, recently we have done some MA fieldwork in Rajahmundry areas, and then when we are talking about the younger people, they have lots of ambition in life. You see, they don't want to live isolated from the mainstream society. I don't know about the elder generation, but the younger generations are having lots of ambitions. They want to become a film star. They want to become a modelers. They want to become a pilot. They want to become a IS officers. They have so much ambitions. In that particular situation, they need to be integrated. They need to be connected with the people like, other society people. We cannot think of keeping them isolated. That is no more applicable. That's what, and they are also getting the same kind of information. They see the smartphones are penetrated, and see now the society, leave it about tribal society, how the importance of the force of globalization, how it is dominating the entire. See, globalization is bringing the world into one common platform. You see, this is the society which we are living, where our pizza burgers are given more important than our aloo bhajis and mirchi bhajis. You see, and Coca-Colas and other drinks are given more important than the teas. You see. So you tell me, any of the students or younger generation people showing aloo bhajis eating in the Facebook, you must be seeing people sharing pizzas and the burgers in the social platforms. You see, this is how the dominant cultures are bringing in. So, what is more important here is filtering your mind, which is very important. What is important? What is not important? And what things has to be valued, no? And what things should not be valued. You see, if you tend to forget all those things, and then the issue comes here. You see, that is the reason why tribal societies are so equally, witnessing the similar kind of problem which we are seeing in the urban societies as well. Because I will tell you a simple example, that beggary, you see, begging is, it was an urban phenomena. Basically, when we when we grow as a child, it is only noticed in urban areas. It was really seen in areas, but many of the tribal areas like Bokaro steel plants and the area, those areas, now beggary has been witnessed, and the prostitutions, alcoholism, drug addiction, these things are never known to tribal people. You see, this is how the external, this is not only in the tribal society, it is happening in the society. Just happening through all this culture. It's a cultural revolution of our society. What is more important here is that I just want to give you some energy that talk about we academicians. It's a high time that following that academic and American Anthropological Association slogan that go to the public anthropology, basically. Now they have started this course in the American universities, the public university, which is becoming very popular. So directly connect with the people and try to help the people, you see. That's the purpose of the discipline. it is not only about anthropology, it is about the social scientists who are working for the seed. All we may be, our perspectives may be different, but our focus is on the humanity, welfare of the society. So we need to get connected with the people. So we need to get down to the action rather than just writing and engaging in the academic dialogue. We have done enough dialogue. Yeah? So that is what I'm saying, that we need to come to the ground level and see that and trying to motivate them and then bring some kind of inner strength. These things are the key important responsibility which we need to take now in today's society. And another dimension which I want to bring it here is because of all these subsequent development initiatives which have been taking for the last 75 years by the government of India and the international agencies on the tribal areas, many of the tribals get benefited and they have become very successful. What is happening today in the name of reservations? Okay, these affluent people are, taking out benefits which is provided by the government, and it is continued to deprive the weaker section tribe. There are even within the tribals also there is an intra-tribal variations in terms of socio-economic and cultural background. You see, so this has to be tackled. Otherwise, what is happening in intra-tribal conflicts are going to, which is already happened in the Manipur, like Kukis and Nagas, and then many of the tribal communities are. See, what is happening is that earlier the tribals were dominated by non-tribals. That is another layer we are talking about. In the second layer, what is happening is that within the tribal, the other dominant tribal groups are again eating up the smaller tribal groups, and which leads to the tribal conflicts in the society. And that is what we are seeing. You must be heard about the tribal conflict in northeastern areas. That is basically because of this kind of issues only. Because most of the benefits are taken over by this affluent group of dominant group. And in the course of time, what is happening is that these smaller groups tend to lose their cultural identity and at the same time the tribal identity. Then what is happening? Then now this is a time of resurrection. So every community has some kind of, in some individuals, luckily, because of the education system, now every community is lucky to have certain kind of individual who can fight against this, injustice. So that is why this kind of unrest, the insurrection, all these things are happening among the society. And what is happening is that because of this, it impact on the larger society, you see. Because it impacts it, because when society is a composite whole, if there's one small problem, recently there was a conflict, border conflict between Mizoram and the Assam. It really disturbs it. It happens in the northeast corner of the Assam and Mizoram border, where nobody knows where that place is. Okay, except few people in the northeastern area. But it really disturbs the entire system of the country. You see, it affects the parliament, it affects the political system, and it affects the people around. So this is how. So we need to be looking for the more integrated approach, which will have a harmonious kind of integration. And then finally, I just want to give you some kind of academic input into I strongly feel that now the situation has come. We need to be, I think we anthropologists should take little more initiative towards the importance of a mixed approach. A mixed perspective, learning from the people, understanding from the people, and the requirements of the people's needs. All these things should be done through people's perspective, which Andhra Madam also already expressed about this. And another thing which we anthropologists really hates about thing is the ethnocentrism. I think now the kind of situation which is operating in the tribal society today, I think that we need to give them some kind of ethnocentrism feelings to them, because otherwise what happening is that I'm really scared of, in the course of coming down the line, the few years down the line, we may not see any of the tribal culture, because the way the global culture is affecting our society today. We need to develop some some sense of pride in our own cultural practices that has to come from within, and we need to give them motivate towards it. So that is, I don't know what is the exact word for it, but right now I'm thinking about ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism basically thinks about we always feel that our culture is better than others. So tribals needs to be motivated through this direction, because otherwise what happens is there's every possibility that their culture, losing of their culture, and then losing of culture means losing of their tribal identity, you see, which is very, threat to the national integration and then the threat to the national harmony, you see. That is the reason why I'm telling about the left-wing extremism, which is coming up, which is very important in the central belt of India and then the Andhra Pradesh border area. All these things are the, outcome of this thing. So a little bit of ethnocentrism is required in this context. And then people who are interacting. See, now we are moving towards a new social contract. When we are moving towards a new social contract, I think we need to be little sensible towards the concept of cultural relativism. Why I said cultural relativism is that in anthropology, anthropologists are the strong, and supporters of cultural relativism, because we outsiders, because at any point of time we have to connect with the tribal people. You cannot deny that. So when you are connecting with the tribal people, we need to have this kind of sense that culturally respecting others' culture, you see. If you start looking down others' culture and behaving differently with the tribal people, that it cuts off our relationship. There's no question that you can develop the social contract, you see. So there's a need for, the outsiders should be, sensible towards the cultural relativism concepts, so that they learn to respect the tribal language, they learn to respect the tribal culture, practices, and encourage them, you see. That is one thing. And that from within the tribal also, they should also feel that our culture is better than others. Why should I know? So that is how, see, that is not about the only tribal people today. This is, this kind of influence is taking, there's a formula that, it is, always top, the developed countries' cultures, we always think that they are better than, we always look upon the, Western cultures and then look on our own culture, which is not the correct way of doing. So that's why I always feel that we need to feel that, our cultures are pride, and our cultures are no less than Western culture. So this is something. Otherwise, in the long run, if you talk about our, younger generation, our kids and our coming children's, grandchildren or whatever, see how they will look at our own culture, you see. Today, our children are not, they don't have the value, you see, of our society culture. They give more importance to the Western culture, Western phenomena. This is happening not only in the tribal society, our society as well. So this has to be protected if you want to sustain our IT. Otherwise, if you forget all our culture, language, everything like tribal society, then in after 20 years, what is Indian culture? What is our own culture? You cannot say that Western song, Western music and pizza burger is our national food. No. The situation is coming in that way direction. So there's a need for sensitizing the people towards our own culture, giving importance, and then making awareness about that is the reason why, preservations and then, like I would just want to take it now, the folk arts and cultures are diminishing from our society because people are not engaging with this kind of, practice. People are more into the modernized way of lifestyle, music, or, even food habit, or, any kind of activities which we do. But there's a need for all things are happening all around, but we are forgetting which area to be targeted. If you look at more simple, and then I think these are the image perspective, ethnocentrism and cultural relativism. This framework will work better because it is, very important framework, which I always feel that this will have certain kind of, protection for the people whom we are talking about. So there is need for, sensitizing this concept to the other part of the, population, so that people take them this thing and take along with them when they interact with the tribals, and tribal also learn from them, and then they also feel pride of their own culture. That is what we need to instill on them, both sides. So otherwise what happens is that, if you always, impose on others, so that imposing our culture on others is what, it's judging others' culture by looking at my practice. It's not the right way of doing things. So with this, I just want to close my, I don't find anything new on all the, every year we celebrate World Indigenous Day, no doubt. And they come up with some kind of theme idea. But what I'm saying is that these things are happening. It's not that it's not new. That's what I always say, that it's an old wine in new bottle, because it's happening. But only thing what way it is happening is an issue now. So I request all the, if you want to know the detail of all this, of how the tribal development is taking place in all across the country, then you should read the high level committee report of 2014, which is available in Ministry of Tribal Welfare website. And that committee was headed by Varghese Kaka, and one of my senior colleague who is retired, K. Misra, was one of the member. Entire informations on tribal development and tribal socio-economic population, everything is there. Through historical perspective and through till present condition, and what are the recommendations they have given for it. See, the quotation I have told you in the very beginning about the LP Vidyarthi, these things are also said in the same 2000. But then he has said in the 1972 what we have been doing all these years. When he was alive, he has spoken about this thing in 1972, and today in 2021 we are saying the same thing today here. Then all these years, what we have been doing, that's what my issue is. So years will accumulate, and we will be talking the same thing with change of jargon and the change of ideas and other things, but the situation, ground situation will remain the same until and unless you don't put yourself into the action, the forefront. So that's what I just always believe that N.K. Bose, work, that he always believed in writing plus action work, you see. When you study the tribal, you are the best person to judge them. You know about their problems, and you are the right person to provide the medicine for them, their problems. So you have to go along with them and develop along with you, so that this, at least you serve the purpose of the small tribal community. That is what, even when Loda tribe in West Bengal was, declared as a criminal tribe by the West Bengal government, because then he studied them, and he was a pioneer on developing the Loda tribes in West Bengal, and that's why he is known as one of the pioneer action anthropologists in India today. But after him, I don't come across any of the action anthropologists, in India today. So there's a high time that we should engage with the public dialogues, and the public anthropology is what need of the hours if we want to make a tribal people more, empowered and more, developed in our society. Thank you, Anjali. I thank Anjali for, patiently, and excuse me if I say very, strong words to any of, I don't mean to be that, but this is what I feel about because we have been listening from our student days to, then I find it little, very, I don't know what to express, but I think it is high time that, because we need to take the responsibility. Otherwise, it's just like a tribals are a fertile area of study for the academic gain, for the individual gains, for the academicians. Thank you, Anju.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking us through the history of tribal and the amical relativism, and ethnographical studies and all that, and then touching a bit on the policies also, the government policies. Thank you so much, sir, for your exhaustive lecture, and also for giving us so much of information on the tribes. As you have rightly said, that they are just becoming the object for our experiments and studies and for our academic gains, which should not happen. But when we study them, we need to implement also, like action anthropology about. So, I think this is really important, and this is a need of our that we should, as an anthropologist or the budding scholars, many of the students are here. So we should not take them as just an object of study, but help them in their development in their own indigenous ways. Okay, to be a facilitator, not just a researcher, but to be a facilitator. So with these words, I thank you, sir. And there are certain questions. I think Anjali ma'am is also ma'am is the forum for discussion and questions and any comments. Any of you are there? Many senior professors are also with us. I think Devendran sir, Nima ma'am.
Just to interrupt, Anjali, I think there's one question for me, which is direct towards Raj.
He has asked.
Yeah, Raj, I think thank you for the question, but I told you 2000 committee, which was chaired by the Varghese Kaka, and it was that committee was formed during the Manmohan Singh's time as a Prime Minister. It's open to everyone. The soft copy of report is there. Even the reservation system talking about now. In daily seminars also actually, and but see, the issue is that this creamy layer issue, like what we are talking about, the other economically weaker section, reservation based on that, and within the tribal also this, because otherwise what the people are scared of, intra-tribal very. Now, talking about the variations in the socio-economic development levels between non-tribal and tribals. But now issue has come. Obviously, there is a difference between tribal and non-tribal that everyone knows. For the last 75 years, we have been seeing. But now the tribing now. So that so that I think. I don't know very about the. It is about the land border issue, but I think please refer the article which was published on my India Express and the Hindu recently on these issues. Okay, I don't want to speak. It's very political. I think I
you have discussed it a little bit, no, the border issues. So that's what sir is telling. Okay.
Okay. No, it is burning now. Actually, many people have been killed. Okay. So
Yes.
that's what.
Ma'am, can I?
Yes. Yes, Devendran sir, please on your video and mic you can speak.
Yeah. Okay. Mic is not. Only mic is because. Thank you so much for giving an opportunity. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah.
Working as a professor in Mizoram University right now. Yes, Devendran sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for this time for me asking. It's not a question actually. It is the lecture was so nice from Dr. Ramesh Singh, and here this particular issue is really burning. We are in Mizoram facing a lot of issues culturally. We are all now alienated in terms of so it is really to feel the way of yemic perspective is very much essential. So it gave an eye-opening for me to understand more about this culture and go. So this particular issue is, sir, a question for you. It's a perennial issue, but what is your way of resolution, the solution for this particular, every now and then this type of issues keep on coming, sir. What is your view on this? That's what my question is, sir.
Excuse me.
As an anthropologist.
I think I can talk to you personally, not in the public forum. This issue is purely a political, political backup issue. Like, I don't know, but please first read the two articles. Otherwise, if you give me your mobile number, I'll send you the two articles which is written by one of my colleagues from political science here from University of Hyderabad. He has written very carefully, and one published in Indian Express, one in the Hindu on this to border dispute. But actually, I don't want to speak because this issue has lots of other, connected problems. So I think you should excuse me for that. Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
I'm Raj Praveen from Annamalai University. Am I audible to all of you?
Yeah, very much, sir.
Yes, please speak.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your informative lecture. And I have a few queries, sir. Already this tribal people are discriminated socially in the mainstream. And I accept your argument that there is a lot of variation within the tribals on the economic front. But if you bring this economic concept within the tribal community, and I feel this social backwardness will continue with the tribal community even if they are economically well off, right? So for the forward caste, they don't have this social backwardness. Even if he is economically poor, he will be respected in the society. And these tribal communities, even if they are economically well off, you find a lot of discrimination in urban centers like Delhi, where they are a little bit well off, but even then they are discriminated. So I feel that this social backwardness, we should not divide these tribal communities on economic front. So this is one particular aspect which I wanted to clarify from you, sir. And the second important thing regarding this ethnocentrism issues, that is one part of culture thinking that they are better than others. So during the World War II, there was a lot of problems faced by the Jews because of this ethnocentrism issues. And I think if these issues come back to the forum, right, that will create a lot of conflicts within the tribal communities or within the communities, and this will result in these people moving away from the mainstream. So after 70 years, we are trying to bring this tribal communities back to the mainstream way of development, and in the name of development, we are trying to displace them. So we have a lot of arid lands, we have a lot of desert lands, we have a lot of unused lands in our country. But in the name of development, we are trying to take the fertile lands or forest lands of these tribals, for which they are the custodians, and we are trying to displace them. And I feel this development agenda has to be reworked or replaced, sir. So this is my humble comments. I request you to kindly clarify, sir.
Yeah, no, I think you have taken me wrongly. I think what I say, if you listen my lecture carefully, I said the creamy layer is about, it's a model I was talking about. It's not just talk about the economy, okay? Within the tribal society, that's what, see, I just quote in 1972, LP Vidyarthi, one of the task force committee appointed by the Prime Minister during that time. What he said is that, it's a high time, please listen carefully, that a fresh look to be given to classify the scheduled tribe and the scheduled area in the terms of ecosystem. Okay, ecosystem includes the culture also. Okay, and the level of their development. So that level of their development is about the economy. So this was told by the LP Vidyarthi in 1972. And he is hinting on that there's a need for fresh look within the tribal community in terms of their culture, in terms of their geographical location, in terms of their economic growth, economic development. Tribal has to be classified so that reservations and other things, other programs can be fit into proper this thing. This is what this is not I am telling. This is told by LP Vidyarthi, one of the pioneer task force committee, which was, it was submitted to the Prime Minister. Please mind. Okay, and then it was submitted in 1972. I am talking about. Okay, and then today is 2021. Okay, that is what I don't mean only economy. Okay, and I think first one is, and the second one, ethnocentrism. See, I was also like you when I was teaching tribal studies in my department. The point which I am trying to say is that the kind of global force which we are coming, and we are succumb to these cultural forces of the global society. Not only tribal, we ourselves are also, merging into this global forces culture. So in this juncture, I am talking about I am looking at the larger phenomena and the long-term, protective kind of thing, that we need to feel that we should feel, I don't know whether ethnocentrism is the right word, or I think we should look for some better word to minimize the controversy. But what I'm saying is that we should feel pride about our culture and the practices and then our lifestyles, and then so that we don't succumb to the external forces culture which are coming from the outside. If external forces has eaten up all our traditional culture practices, then in the long run, we will not have any identity to show. That is the reason why Ministry of Tribal Welfare in their policy, there's a preservation of tribal culture. And then their folk arts, that is the only one. I think if you don't believe me, please visit Indira Gandhi Manav Sangrahalaya in Bhopal. And huge money has been spending on this museum. This is a museum of humankind, which has all the tribal communities, houses, the culture. You will find all the extinct tribal cultural practices in that museum. Why we do this thing is that at least in the future, when tribals are, in case they lose the identity or anything, that will become the proof. You have to go back to the history and try to, because now every society, now the self-resurrection which we are talking about, see, now this is the time where people are revolting against the system and that they are trying to regain their identity. So in that kind of situation, when you don't have any proof or anything to fight against that system, then you need to retain all this cultural practice. The culture is very important. It is a backbone of your identity. So that's what I'm saying. But I don't know whether the ethnocentrism is the correct word. I think Anjali Madam can clarify with me. But what I'm saying is that we need to instill the feeling that otherwise what is happening is that we are so inferior to others. This kind of feeling, no, that is killing. It is eating up our all cultural practices. Even see, I will give you a simple example. That's what I say. I am telling you that outsiders also, it's not only one-sided. Outsiders who are interacting through new social contract, they should also have an understanding of cultural relativism, respecting others' culture. I will give you a simple example that please don't mind. That in Western society, they don't use water for cleaning after going to the washroom, you see. They use only tissue paper. See how our Indian people look at this kind of culture. And then when they heard that we use water for the washroom and other thing, again they also get shocked, you see. And which one is better? Tell me. So no one is better or good, or it's a relative term. It has all importance in that particular cultural context. So when we are interacting with the tribal people, we should have a very common sense of this cultural relativism. We should go with this kind of concept so that exploitation, imposition on tribal people, and thinking that tribal cultures are inferior to our culture, this kind of idea should be removed. This can be removed only when you develop the idea of cultural relativism. And the other side will also come little forward that our cultures are, not less than others. That feeling is required in today, the way the exploitations are taking place in tribal society. And then tribal themselves are living their own cultural practices. And then recently, just one, before Corona, we went to tribal Rajmundry area in Andhra Pradesh. Many of the younger people, they don't know about their folk tales, dance. They only know Western dance. And then, you see, if the elder people are not there in that village, then how they will talk about their tribal culture, identity? That becomes, so there's a need for instilling all this kind of, and making aware about this cultural, ethos and the practices. This is the only sources they will have in the future when they want to, claim their identity. That's what I am telling. Okay, but this ethnocentrism word, I think, I don't know if it's the right word to use or what. This is just idea I am thinking that if new social contract has to develop, then it has to develop through these two concepts. Then only it will be more fruitful. Otherwise, same kind of things like recycling of the same thing, then these things will continue.
Thank you so much, sir. And
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Further, any questions? Or Anjali ma'am, if you're there, you want to add anything into this? We are talking about this ethnocentrism and things like that. I believe ma'am is there, or yes, ma'am, you're on
Sorry.
mute.
Sorry.
Yes.
It was mute and I was talking. Sorry.
Okay.
Right, Romesh sir, he has rightly pointed out the concept of cultural relativism. And this is what I feel the greatest gift that anthropology has given to the world. Nowadays, there is a need of having, sense of cultural relativism in us. If we become, instead of ethnocentrism, we can use the words that we should have a emic perspective. While analyzing any society, we don't analyze. Anthropologists, they don't analyze society, whether it is superior or inferior. We accept as it is, and we respect that culture. So when we go to visit any community, we should understand that society from the insider's perspective, from the emic perspective, than our ethic perspective. So ethic perspective is more ethnocentric perspective. So emic perspective, and if we have a emic perspective, problems will be solved, I think, and which we usually don't use emic perspective. So emic perspective is more right word here, and of course what he is saying, cultural relativism. The same thing I had told in my talk also, that we should develop the in a simple, for the common man's language, that we should have to develop our listening power. So listening capacity, listening what the indigenous people want, what is their need, what is their voice. So here I feel the role, our role, anthropologist role is most important, because this I have clarified, the development is always, it is imposed, it's the exogenous process to bring the change, and having the two different concepts, like we outsiders, they have their own concepts of development, and to whom the other party, to whom we are exposing, putting, influencing this process, they have their own perspectives of development. So listening to each other's perspective is the best way to bring out to solve the solution and bring out the change. This is what I feel here. But overall, it was good, sir. I enjoyed your class and your lecture, and I am agree with you, definitely.
Thank you, ma'am. Same platform with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Only
ma'am.
a little bit, I have a different opinion about bringing out the, creamy layer for scheduled tribe. And there are many reasons. This is like, it will take me another 2-3 hours, the long discussion. Why not why there shouldn't be creamy layer for the scheduled tribes? Because even though a few slot, a few section is economically developed, it's not that the 2-3 generations have developed. It's maybe a first generation, it's their first generation or second generation who are gaining some better status, I'll say. Some better status means maybe they are in the government, having a government job. So they didn't become a yet industrialized, industrialist. They are not having their own industries that they look after, generations. And there are many other reasons also, very important reasons that for the creamy layer particularly shouldn't bring for the scheduled tribe, because our below poverty line survey, it says that most of the families are belonging to the SCs, STs. So and there are other things also, what the attacks are happening. It's on all physical attacks or other social attacks are happening. It's all the families are belonging to the indigenous people. All are, most of them are the SCs, STs, and OBC. There are many other reasons. I think we'll have to have another webinar on this issue, actually. Overall, it was a good session, and I thank Anjali once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am. So yeah, I have posted for the participants, I have posted the feedback form. So please fill your informations correctly, because if you don't fill it, the certificate, I can't do anything, because it has to be linked with your form. So whatever you have filled there, that will be appearing in your e-certificate. So please fill your institution name and your name also very correctly, the spelling and everything. So with these words, if there is no further question, I would like to propose the formal vote of thanks for this webinar. So yeah, I should start with our authorities of Gandhigram. Yes, Raj, you want to speak anything? The mic is
Madam,
unmuted.
my third query was regarding this displacement of tribals from forest land. Instead of displacing these tribals from forest land in the name of development, why don't we use these arid lands, desert lands, which is being lying idle for the past many decades? Because these tribal lands are fertile lands, and this destruction of these tribal lands is also creating a lot of ecological problems, like climate change issues in a few places. But tribals being custodians of this forest lands, and I think in the name of development, we should not destroy this forest ecosystem. Any clarification from the speakers of this webinars?
Yeah, I have a small. I just I think what you said is partly true. But if you take the track record of mining industry, okay,
Yes.
mining is one of the largest displacement which takes place of tribal because of mining. See,
Yes.
the kind of land, quality of land, the mining, so which you get in the tribal area, you will not get in anywhere in other place in the country.
Arid area.
Okay, so those company, okay, who wants to do mining in the country, okay, they will definitely look for the where resources is available, and then government of India has to negotiate because they also get the money. So what you said, some point like about other industrial establishment and all that, fine. But if you look at the mining has the highest record of displacement of tribal, and mining resources are richly available only in the tribal area
Right.
land. So
Right.
that is the one problem.
Yes, that's why in tribal area. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, I should start with my own authorities, my vice chancellor and my registrar, who told to join, but due to certain reasons and health issues, they could not join. But I thank them because due to their support only we were able to conduct this webinar successfully. And our beloved dean, our William Bhaskaran sir, who has accepted the invitation and did the inaugural for this webinar. I also thank Muthiah sir with a very short notice, and he permitted his own Tamil department indigenous video, which they have made to screen in our webinar. So thank you, Muthiah sir, and the whole of this Tamil department. I thank our sociology head, Kumaran sir. If you are there, I don't know whether sir is there, because sir also helped me in this webinar, and he is all through. I was seeing that he is listening and he was there. Thank you, sir, for all your support for this webinar, and I also thank my own team, my coordinator in charge, Dr. Mani, because he's the one helping me all through the paperworks and moving the files and everything, since I'm away from the university right now, and but we are working online, so we are just doing this program as a team, still being apart but being together. So thank you, Mani sir, and Kani, Dr. Tirikani, who has also helped me, and my own colleagues Vinny and Srinivasan sir. Thank you for all your support from the department side, and I would like to thank personally once again Anjali ma'am for accepting the invitation. It was really nice being with you after a long time. I never felt that I'm away from you because yeah, we were in touch all through, even when you were abroad, we were in touch through Facebook and everything. So thank you so much, ma'am. Your presence is very important for me in this webinar, and I thank you personally. And from my department's behalf also, I thank you, Romesh sir, once again for giving a spark to our thinking, and saying the same thing, that like the old things in the what new wine, that one. So but yeah, we have to really think of it, because this is what happening, and we need to, because this session is just, this webinar is just a tip on the iceberg, I can say. And we have to do a lot, as you said, 75 years of independence, but still we are struggling with the mainstreaming of the tribes and indigenous people, not just in India, sir, at the world level also. Similar conditions are there. So thank you, sir, for enlightening our thoughts and provoking it towards the right direction. So though it may be strong, as you said, for many, but then the truth is truth. We cannot say it as a lie. So thank you, sir, for being here on our invitation. We thank you from our Gandhigram fraternity. Thank you, sir. And I especially want to thank some of my colleagues, senior professors who are working in different places in India. Devendran sir from Mizoram University, Felicia ma'am from Bangalore, and then many others who have joined today on my invitation. They are all busy professors, but still they want to learn. So that gives us also a lot of encouragement when you are all sitting all through the day and with us involving. Thank you so much. And Janani ma'am, Ishwari ma'am, our sister department, Women Studies. Then I thank Valerie ma'am. I think ma'am has also given a comment that to Romesh sir from Pondicherry University. Ma'am is saying, I believe the term revitalization of culture is more apt for today's this thing. And I also thank Nima ma'am as she is here. Thank you ma'am from Bangalore University. And then our own Tangaraj sir is a retired judge, but he's also working among certain group of people, community in Tamil Nadu on his own interest. He's our PhD scholar also. Thank you, sir. And then I thank Velu Mulgan, sir, our postdoctoral fellow in Gandhigram, my own dear friend Aarti, and then Rupa and Sara, all these people I want to thank personally. And also the students who were there. I was thinking that some of the students should bring some questions, but maybe they are not. They have not asked anything. And I think Abdul sir, Taha sir, also there from Manu. So thank you so much, sir. So I think Mani sir, you want to conclude with a few more words, Dr. Mani. Mani sir is there. Due to this admin.
Anjali?
Yes, Mani sir, you want to say a few words before we finish the...
Gandhigram and our center, I thank all the participants, especially Professor Anjali ma'am and Romesh Singh, so for wonderful session. I thank Anjali for organizing this webinar on nice manner. I thank all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again, Romesh sir, and all of you. So we are going to close the meeting. So please fill your feedback forms based on which you will get the certificate in another 2 weeks. Thank you. Thank you all of you for joining. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye. Thank you. Thank you, sir.